Hello, my name is Tiffany. I'm living in my car and I'm obsessed with the A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. Now, you've probably seen podcasts, YouTube channels. They've got everything for this. This is my co-host, by the way. Sorry. This is Miss Swiss, our co-host. She listens to the audiobooks with me. Okay. So as I was saying, I'm obsessed with the A Song of Ice and Fire series, and I'm starting my own breakdown. These are going to be cliff notes, a backseat version of the book, basically. We're going to go chapter to chapter. These are going to be recorded right from the backseat of my car. And I'm going to take a different approach to this. I love true crime as well. So we're going to play detective. We're going to treat this as a crime. The whole series, we're going to treat it as a crime. We're going to try to play detective and break down and see if we can come up with our own conclusions on who killed who, whose mom and dad is who. We want to figure out every single theory. So we need notes. We need to take what we know to be true. I think that's the key point here. We need to make note on what we know to be true, not what someone says. So we're going to treat this as a true crime. We're playing detective as we go through chapter by chapter of A Song of Ice and Fire. We're starting with book 1. Book 1, Prologue, is our first chapter. Now, these are cliff notes. I'm going to kind of go through what happened in the chapter, and we're going to discuss the very important details. These are the notes, our detective notes that we need to keep of things that we know to be true. Okay, so the story starts out with a few gentlemen. We have Garrett, we have Will, we have Sir Royce Waymore, and it sounds like they've been sent out on some sort of a mission. They are 9 days past what they're calling the wall. We don't know what the wall is yet, but we know that they've traveled 9 days from that point. They've been sent out on orders by a gentleman named Mormont. So he sounds like that's the leader, Mormont. And the orders were to chase down wildlings. Now, why are they chasing down wildlings? Well, we don't know exactly what wildlings are, but they've been killing and roaming and stealing. They're just actually causing a muck right now. So Mormont has given orders to follow them and try to see if they can catch up with them, because they need some punishment. He's decided for what they've done. Mormont has a nickname. They call him the Old Bear. So right now he's kind of giving this old wise impression. That's kind of how other people are looking at him. So Mormont gave the instructions to these 3 riders. It's been 9 days, and one of them, Garrett, he's saying that they should start a fire because it is really, really, really cold north. There's winds. They're in the snow. They're, it's like being a Youper, The farther north you go into Canada, it's going to get even more crazy. So that's the kind of weather that they're in right now and that they're dealing with. They are in some wicked winter weather. And Royce is like, no, we're not gonna start a fire and let people know where we're at. He kind of laid down the law and said, no, we're not going to do that. And Garrett's like, well, besides keeping us warm, it also keeps off other things. What are these other things? We don't know, but Garrett seems kind of scared. I don't know if he's scared of the dark, but he's not too happy that they're not able to start a fire. Will had been sent out. He was like a poacher hunter at one time. And he comes back and reports to the group that he's found these wildlings. And they're all dead. And Royce just doesn't believe it. And they're kind of speculating, well, maybe they froze to death. Like maybe, a sickness. And Royce is like, what did the wall look like when we last left? And they said it was weeping. And they said, well, if the wall was weeping, that means that it wasn't cold enough for things to freeze. So how could they have frozen to death if the wall wasn't even staying frozen at that time? So now we have a little bit more clue about the wall. Sounds like the wall is made of ice. And it was melting, which would be weeping ice. So that's kind of an important clue we need to write down. The wall is made of ice. There's a wall made of ice. And so they continue discussing, and they're like, well, no, they couldn't have. They just don't think that it's been way colder. Like if it's so cold that the wall is frozen, it's warmer than that now. How would they have frozen to death? So they're just, as a leader, he just doesn't believe that this guy saw what he saw, and he wants to see it for himself. So he's like, you take me to them and show me. I want to see these dead wildlings that we've been chasing for 9 days. Like, this is the end of the mission. If they've found them, they can go back, right? So Will is very reluctant, but he's like, okay, I'll show you. And Garrett's like, he actually just stays with the horses because somebody's got to, tend to them. Now Garrett, he's had some experience out in this snow and stuff too. So maybe that's why he wanted the fire. This man has lost his ears to frostbite. Isn't that crazy? Like, he just doesn't even have his ears anymore. So like he's spent some time, out in this cold weather before. He has some experience. But he stays with the horses and they truck off. And so they finally kind of approach the area that he saw the dead wildlings, and Will's looking and he's like, they're not there. Where did they go? They're all gone. And Royce is like, you just made this up. Like, he's thinking, how did you see that? But they're looking around and everything is still there, like axes, food, things that these wildlings would never have just left and gone. So it's a bit suspicious. And Royce commands Will to just climb up a tree and see if he can see anything, like maybe see some smoke from a fire further ahead, give some sort of notice, let him know, like, hey, can you get up there and see anything farther? So Will listens to his commander. He climbs up this tree, and he's just getting like colder and colder, and he just has this like really eerie feeling, and he wants to kind of scream out, but he doesn't. And suddenly he sees a shadow on the ground moving towards his commander. And this shadow, it calls it the other. We don't really know much about what another is, but it's a shadow. It made no sound, had silent feet. When it walked, it was completely silent. It was tall. It was gaunt. It was hard. Like, these are the description that we're getting from someone who actually saw what another was. Had fleshy milk, like skin, so it sounds like white, like milky skin. But it would change color like a chameleon when it walked. So that makes me think of reflection. And what would reflect? Glass, like a mirror, ice, like you can see your reflection in ice, frozen water. Trying to think of those type of things. That's what it made me think of when it said that it was chameleon-like, and it almost appeared like what it was walking past. Now, this other had a long sword. He's ready to fight Royce. He pulls out this sword and he just goes at it. And Royce only has a long sword, but he pulls out and they start to fight. Now, Will's up in the tree and he's saying the sword looked alive with moonlight. It shimmered. It was a very faint shimmer, but it was like a translucent color. And he was able to see the other's eyes were bright blue and they burned like ice, like blue ice. So they're down there fighting, and Will's just in shock. He can't speak. He's just silent up there watching this happen. And as the sword, this magical moonlight sword this other has, as it crashes into Royce's long sword, it's making this animal scream. It's a sound he's never heard. It's like unknown sound, like a scream like an animal would make, but it's coming from this other sword. And it's also talking. It's like talking because these watchers, these other things that look dead and pale, come out of the woods as Royce is losing this fight with this other. And so again, we've got Will's view. He's the one giving us the description of all of this. And he said the watchers were cold and butchery, dead others. And they just watched this fight go on until Royce finally just loses the fight. And he could hear them talking, and their language was like crackly, very unknown. But they were laughing. And that I found that very interesting, that they're like, so these others have some sort of communication and they have feelings because they're laughing after they killed him. So I thought that was a key point to write down. The fact that they're able to communicate and it doesn't seem like they're just mindless bodies like a zombie. It seems like they're a lot more than that. The fact that they're laughing and talking to each other in this language. So now Will's the only one left. He's up in that tree. Somehow they didn't see him up there, so these others, watchers, have moved on, and it's finally been long enough that he feels he can climb down the tree. So he climbs down the tree. Of course, he's going to go check on his buddy, his dead buddy, Waymore Royce, his commander. And the poor guy's there just dead on the ground. And he's like, well, what can I do that people will believe that this actually happened? You know, nobody's going to believe this. I need some sort of proof. So he finds Royce's broken long sword that had just been snapped from that magical sword it had been fighting. And he picks it up. He's like, I'll take this back. And as he turns around, Sir Waymore Royce is standing up now directly behind him. He's pale, milky flesh and bright, burning blue eyes, just like those things the guy that he fought. The others, the watcher, he looks exactly like this now. And his hands reach up and strangle Will to death. And that's the prologue. So now I want to talk about maybe some key points that we didn't get in the cliff notes that I just gave of what happened in that chapter. We start with who we know. We know Garrett. Garrett's the one that stayed back with the horses. He has a lot of experience. He's had frostbite before, lost his ears. We have Will, who was the poacher hunter that saw everything happen from the tree. He's the one that we get most of this description from, that we know to be true. And he also ends up dying at the very end. So we've lost Will. We've got Commander Sir Waymore Royce. We lost him. He's the one that fought the other and then came back alive and killed Will. We have Mormont. He's the one that is like the main leader, it sounds like, that gave these actual commands for them to go out and find the wildlings. His nickname is Old Bear. And then we have a gentleman named Master Aemon. Now, Master Aemon was just briefly mentioned in the chapter, so we know he's part of this group that they're all some sort of part of. We know he's in this group, but we don't actually know much about him anymore. He's just briefly been mentioned. And the four gentlemen I just named, we've been told that they are called the Black. They wear black cloaks. They're dressed in all black. And they're called Men of the Night's Watch. Now, we'll learn more about this in more chapters, but that's really all we know about the Black. They're called Men of the Night's Watch, and they all wear black cloaks. And then if we look at the where with that group of people, we've been told that they came from the Wall. They left the Wall, and they had ridden 9 days past it. So we know that's where they came from. It keeps discussing where they went as beyond the Wall. Yes, that's what they call it as a location. They are now beyond the Wall. They've gone beyond the Wall 9 days. We know that the wall is made of ice because they talked about it weeping and melting. And we know that it's called, there's a castle there called Castle Black. Because in the chapter they mentioned going back to Castle Black. So those are kind of the key points that we know about our main characters. The who, kind of the what, the where. Now we can discuss the wildlings. Those are another set of characters. We didn't really meet any wildlings. We just know that that's what they were sent to find, were these wildlings who were like raiding, capturing, killing. So they're a whole set of characters that we will get to know, I guess, more about. We're going to have to take additional notes on them because we didn't really get to know about who those people are, except for they, kind of sounds like they're bad. Don't know that for sure, but, doesn't sound like they're doing good things. But we don't know why yet. So, innocent till proven guilty. And then we have the others. That was the last set of group of people that we met here. The others, they sound dead, right? To me, they sound dead. They have fleshy, like white milk skin. They don't make any sound. Like when they walk, it's like silent, like they have silent feet. They're tall, like shadow-like, gaunt, hard. Changes color when it walks. It just sounds like it's built of ice. That I just thought of a mirror or frozen ice. When it walks, it changes color. It has a special, like, magical longsword that looks like it's alive with moonlight. So dark, like talking dark, faint. It shimmers. It's translucent. They have bright blue eyes that burn like ice. The wind stopped when they came. It got really, really cold. It just like everything is like frozen, cold. Like that's what they're kind of giving. Also zombie dead, but that's not what I don't see them as zombies. I do see them as dead, but I don't see them as zombies. And the reason why we see them as dead is one of them came back alive. Like after it was killed, it came alive. And that's what like a zombie would do. So that's why I'm kind of saying that we've got these others are like dead-like people. But they do have their own language. So that's why I said they're not, like, there's more going on. There's some sort of actual intelligence going on in there because they were talking to each other. They were laughing after the guy died. They thought it was like funny. And it's not like a human language. It's more of like crackling when you step on snow, that crackle that you get. It just all is going to ice to me, these other people. And they're beyond the wall. That's where they're located. That's really all we know about them. And then they have like a group of watchers that are kind of the same. They're cold, they're butchery, they look dead. So I think that is the summary of our prologue. We've made note on what we know to be true. And we've discussed kind of like who the characters were, the locations that we've been introduced to. And I'll note that the character for the prologue was Will, but he died. So we probably won't see him as a character chapter again. But I do want to note that our first chapter was actually called Prologue, but the character was Will, and Will died. We don't know what happened to Garrett. That's key too. it doesn't give us any information. We just know he stayed back with the horses. So who knows what happened to Garrett? Garrett may have been killed too. But we're going to end it there. And that is the first edition of the Backseat Cliff Note review. It's our crime review of A Song of Ice and Fire. We're going to break this down like detectives. And we'll be doing the next chapter next time I see you.